The dawn of civilization. Primitive. Dangerous. Exciting. The handwriting is on the wall. If the human race is ever going to amount to anything, it needs
the most civilized caveman I have ever seen.
Look who's come out of his cave.
Hey everyone, this is James from Cave Dweller Music. I have my co-host Brendan with me today. Today we have a guest for you that's a little different to what we usually have on. We actually have one of the CDM writing staff on. I'd love to welcome Tom Hanno to the show. Thanks so much for coming on. So Tom contributes for us, but he also contributes to a number of other publications and is involved in a bunch of different parts of the underground scene. So you may have seen him writing for Doomed and Stoned, Sleeping Shaman, and his own site, Tom's Reviews, which covers a lot of fantastic music. He's also, just like me, a contributor at the Doom charts. So every month he's voting to pick what is the best releases. So Tom, do you want to just tell us a little bit about your background? What got you into writing and specifically for music?
As far as music goes, I grew up, I was born in 1974, so I grew up in the late 70s and early 80s, and my dad had a massive vinyl collection, an old school stereo setup with a reel-to-reel and all that good stuff from back in the day. And he always had music playing, anything from the Beatles to the Moody Blues to Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin, and beyond. So music was always a part of my life, and I was always kind of like an introvert as a kid. So it took the place of a lot of social interaction for me, and it's been the one constant in my life. As far as writing goes, that was kind of by accident, to be honest. A friend of mine and a bunch of her friends had started a magazine called Chimera Magazine, an online site based out of Syracuse, New York. And they were looking for a writer, and I sent her a message and started sending in things, and it kind of spiraled from there and turned into what it is now.
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome. It's one of those things where I think you kind of have to have a passion to write about music. It's a lot of time. It's very time consuming, as you know. For anyone who doesn't know, it is very time consuming, and especially when you're not getting paid for it, it really is like a work of passion.
Oh, most definitely. But, as I go back through some of my old Facebook memories, it kind of seems like I've always done it to one extent or another. Just now it's more focused and more concentrated. Right.
I'm going to ask you this question because this is definitely true for me and a lot of people I've spoken to who write. Have you always kind of been the guy who shares music with your friends? You're like, hey,
Yep.
Check this out.
Yeah.
Yep, most definitely.
Yeah. I think that's the natural progression from fan to writer.
Yeah.
Well, and music is such an important thing that, I mean, the more people I can share good bands with, and then they'll share with people, and it just snowballs from there. And the more people that hear about, especially these great underground bands, I mean, the better it is for everybody involved, I think.
Absolutely.
Definitely. I mean, sorry, Bernie, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, like, that's kind of how I got involved with James and everybody in the first place before we even were, like, Cave Dwellers. I was like, these guys are into sharing music, and I was like, oh, they haven't posted this, so, like, bam, put this in your ear holes, and then it was just a natural, like, progression of, like, we just turned it into what we did,
Yep, definitely. And that's how Tom's Reviews came about too. It was a musician page because I was a guitarist in a horrorcore rap band up here, and it just kind of turned into Tom's Reviews, which I think is a better thing anyway.
Yeah, how's Tom's Reviews been growing? Like, what's the journey been for that site going off on your own?
Well, for now, it's just social media accounts. I don't have an actual website because I'm not technologically savvy. But it's been a long process. I started it back in 2017, shortly after I started writing for Chimera Magazine, and it was small, but I'm up over 6,000 likes and follows on
Wow.
the Facebook one, and then
Nice.
I've got Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it now, Instagram. I just started utilizing TikTok a little more because it seems like I get like everybody gets a broader audience that way.
Uh-huh.
And now that I'm focusing more on music instead of some things in my personal life, I'm going to start pushing the page a little harder and try and see if I can get it up to 10,000 and beyond
Nice.
if possible.
I think people really like that on like Facebook post type digestible reviews style. We started as that as well before we had the website, and people really loved it because it's like you don't have to go to another place to read it. It's right there, and the link to listen to it's right there. It's just easy.
Yep. And from starting it out, I figured out that if you put links to the band's albums in the comments, like I always use Bandcamp links because I'm a huge supporter of Bandcamp.
Yeah.
It actually helps them be able to share your post instead of just the link, and that took me a long time to figure out.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's Facebook's like the way Facebook operates is super weird with sharing. It makes it so complicated. Way harder than it has to be.
Yep. Their algorithms and things are weird.
They are. Twitter's like people can say what they want about Twitter, but it's so simple to share something on Twitter. You literally just retweet. It's done.
Yep.
Yeah.
The only thing I don't like about Twitter is the length of the what you can write.
Yes, I know. That is so annoying. Unless you pay for a premium account, then you can write as much as you want.
I'm not giving Elon Musk any money.
No,
Right.
me either. I think he has enough. He has enough.
Jeez Louise, yeah. I got a new phone, and then I can't log back into Twitter. I've
Really?
tried to reset it a bunch of times, new password. Like I've went to go through like the email process and everything, and it's still not working. I don't know.
Oh man, it's tough. A company I worked for had the same issue where they lost their corporate account because another employee created it and they couldn't reset it as well. It's overly complicated. But we're not here to talk about social media metrics. We're here to talk about metal.
Yes.
So Tom, what would you say like sort of shaped your taste musically? What bands got you into it all?
Let's see, what shaped my taste? My parents had a lot to do with that. They were into hard rock and just like the borders of heavy metal. They didn't go as extreme as I eventually did, but they took me to a lot of concerts when I was 11 years old. Hair metal, blues, rock, you name it, they took me to it.
Nice.
And then when I was 16, I met my buddy Jeff Spear, who's in a band up here called Less Than Hate. And he introduced me to thrash metal, him and a couple other guys that we're lifelong friends. It's pretty cool. But they got me into thrash metal. And once I hit that, nothing else mattered.
Yeah.
Metallica, Megadeth, Anthrax, Slayer. I mean, you name it, we ate it up like it was the best dinner ever, because it was. It's actually still my favorite genre after all these years.
Nice.
And we're talking like 1991 is when I got into it. And beyond that, I mean, it's just like that natural progression anybody who's into metal gets into. You find that something's heavy and you want heavier. So you go from, say, thrash to death metal and so on and so forth. And I still do that. I'm going to be 49 years old in 2 days, and I'm still finding heavier stuff because that's what I want. I want heavier.
Right. Have you found as well, like when you've looked back at your progression, as you've gotten older, you've kind of also branched out to other areas you used to hate? Because I definitely have.
Yep. I used to despise black metal, and I'm starting to find a lot of value in it.
Yeah, I think your taste kind of... I don't know if your taste changes, but I think maybe you realize it doesn't matter as much the things you were being picky about as you get older. Or maybe you take more chances on things or come back to things. But for me, like, I used to absolutely hate country music. And I still do for the most part. But there's actually there's a lot of value in that scene in the right places. Like, there's a lot of underground stuff that's genuinely great. You just don't see it or hear it, which is a real shame.
And it's funny. I can't stand country music until I'm at the bar and I've got a beer in me, and then that's the best stuff ever. And I don't understand why, because I hate it 99% of the time.
It's just like that foot stomping, head nodding, twangy, catchy. Yep. It's
But
bad.
the thing that no one tells you growing up is that there's gothic country and like dark country and outlaw country, and that stuff's fantastic. But that's not the stuff you ever get exposed to, which is a real shame.
No,
No.
most people have no clue what that is. And there's some, like, I can't think of any of them right now, but there are some great artists doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah. For me, the number one dude, and I absolutely love him, is Amigo the Devil. I'm not sure if you've heard his stuff.
Yup, they're really good.
Yeah.
And then even beyond that, I like some of the darker folky banjo-y kind of stuff, like the Dead South.
Yes. Yeah, that stuff's really cool. That it's like a gothic bluegrass.
Yeah.
I love that stuff. I think there's a lot of crossover there, like with
Yeah.
lyrical themes and stuff as well with metal. There's a lot of stuff about like Satan and like alcohol, violence, like all that type of stuff that carries over.
Yeah, the darker parts of it, and they just add the twangy stuff into it, and it just somehow it changes the vibe, and I still don't understand why, but I don't even think it matters.
No, it doesn't. Just enjoy it.
And the same can be said with rockabilly into psychobilly.
Yeah.
100%. 100%. Yeah.
I like that stuff too, though. It's good.
It's fun.
Rockabilly, or psychobilly.
It's
Same like the Richard Horton Heat,
Yes, exactly.
And then there's some smaller bands from Canada, like the Brains. They are fantastic.
Oh, I don't know them.
Yeah, they're really good. I've got a couple of their CDs here, and of course I can't think of the names right now, but they're definitely worth checking out.
Okay, that sounds cool. The other thing about that stuff is it translates really well live. It just brings a lot of energy.
Yep, and that's what metal fans want. We want that energy and intensity.
Exactly. And it's funny what you're saying about like never finding it to be heavy enough, because it is like that. You like your tolerance builds, and then it's the same with like using a substance. Your tolerance gradually builds as you listen to heavier music, and then you're like, man, this isn't doing it for me anymore. I need something stronger.
Yeah, and that's what led me into bands like Cattle Decapitation. When I was younger, you wouldn't have caught me listening to Grindcore or anything, but they came out with that one album where he introduced the cleans, and I was all in. And every album since has been fantastic.
I think it was Monolith of Inhumanity, right?
I believe so.
That album is like a game changer for the band. That's kind of what blew them up.
Yeah.
Yep. I saw them up here in Syracuse probably 8-9 years ago, and they put on one amazing show.
That's awesome. They're based down here in San Diego, but I actually haven't seen them down here. They really don't play as many shows at home because they probably did it for so long that now that they're bigger, they just want to play, other spots, which makes sense, I guess.
Yeah, I wish they'd come back up here. I'd like to see them again.
They always seem to be touring, but I really respected them because do you remember in 2020 there was those insanely bad fires in Australia where like the whole country was on fire? I was living there at the time, and they did a charity T-shirt that had us. The whole front of the shirt is Australian animals with like their like sort of mascot thing, and then fire all behind it, and all the money went to wildlife protection funds, which was really cool.
That is really cool. I think I remember them doing that, and that's what they're all about too, is bringing out a little bit of positivity with their extreme music.
Right. Yeah, because a lot of their lyrical themes is about like conservation and animal rights and all that stuff.
Yep.
Do you remember what happened with them and Chris Barnes?
Not in any detail. I'm not even sure I remember any of it, to be honest.
I don't know how true it is, but apparently there are a lot of witnesses. It was all in the metal tabloids and stuff. But apparently Chris Barnes like sucker punched the vocalist Travis from Cattle Decapitation like in the back of the head while he was walking away while they were on tour together, and then locked himself in his trailer so they could like retaliate.
Oh, I do remember hearing about that now.
Yeah.
I could go off on Chris Barnes all day.
Us too, man. I feel the same way.
I loved his vocals on those early Cannibal Corpse albums, but if I never hear him sing again, it will be too soon.
Yeah, the last few 6 Feet Unders have been pretty painful to.
They've been horrific. Horrific is the only word that describes it. He's and he likes to block people on Twitter, and I know that because I'm one of them.
I have a bunch of friends blocked by him. It's kind of
He
funny.
can't handle the truth, and his outlook on modern death metal is atrocious.
Yeah, I know. I've seen it. He just says everyone sucks, basically. All the new bands suck. There's no good death metal anymore.
Right. No good death metal. 200 stab wounds. Chris, come on, buddy.
Dude, wow.
Yeah, there's
I
so
know,
many,
man.
so many good bands. It's like anyone that's like that age that says there's no good new music is just not listening to the right people.
Yeah, he sounds like Gene Simmons.
Yes, I mean Gene Simmons is like one of those windbags that never shuts up either. That just constantly has shit takes on things.
Yep. Kind of like Ted Nugent.
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
Oh
You can list
boy,
them all.
is there.
But so what about this year? It's been a huge year for metal, as you obviously know. I've seen you cover a bunch of cool stuff. What's some of the stuff that stood out to you in 2023?
My top album for 2023, and I've been working on my my top 10 list of the year, but my top pick has been, since before it came out, the new Dope Lord.
Yeah.
Nice.
Songs for Satan is the epitome of stoner doom, and they are like the kings of that genre right now, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're phenomenal.
I agree. That album's probably going to be on my list for the end of the year.
Like I can't stop listening to it. I probably play it 4 or 5 times a week still.
Wow.
And I've had it for probably 2 months before it came out, because if I remember correctly, I reviewed it for The Sleeping Shaman.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Nice. Yeah. Though I love all their albums, man. They're really great.
Yeah, great band.
And aside from them, there's like the new Cannibal Corpse, Chaos Horrific. That's another one that I listen to a couple times a week still. The new Cattle Decapitation, Terracite, obviously. Boy, I can't even.
Yeah, that was a fun one. I liked it. I liked it more than the previous one, I think.
Yeah, I did too. And another one that made my top 10, and people are gonna be like, "Oh, you're such a poser," but I don't care. Is the new Metallica album, 72 Seasons.
Oh yeah, you're a fan?
That was the first thrash band I ever heard, and I kind of have a love-hate relationship with them.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I think a lot of people do.
they've been winning me back album by album. And while 72 Seasons is bloated in a few spots, well,
Yeah.
more than a few, there is some solid riffs and songwriting going on.
Yeah.
And watching the videos of them on tour right now, playing these songs live, they're nailing it. And I'm really impressed that these guys that are 60, 61 years old are still going out and can play the old songs the way they can, and the new songs as well. I'm really impressed with them this year.
Yeah.
My main criticism was what you mentioned. I felt like they really could have trimmed some of the fat on those tracks. Like maybe 20% of the album could have been taken out, and it would have been a much cleaner listen.
If that album would have been 45, 50 minutes long instead of, 71, I think, it would have been a whole lot better.
Right, 71 is too long for a thrash album that isn't like prog thrash or like technical thrash.
Right.
Yeah, and even some of those songs that are bloated, I still love them. They could be 2 minutes shorter, like You Must Burn. That's 2 minutes too long.
Yeah, definitely.
But it is their most stoner doom kind of song that they've ever done.
Right.
Right.
And I think that's what pulled me into it.
Anything else that stood out to you?
Oh, God, I can't even think if this came out this year, but I absolutely was in love with the newest Fear Factory album. I can't remember if that was last year or this year or not, though.
No, I don't. I want to say it was last year, but let me check. I'll tell you right now. It does blend. It kind of bleeds together, doesn't it? Like
it does.
What came out when? It's like when I do my end of year lists, I like put stuff on there. I'm like, wait, this was like a year ago.
I had to do that.
Titles and like all the dates, release dates. You know, like, oh yeah,
it all blurs together.
Well, are you talking about the compilation, the Industrialist, the Reindustrialized?
No. What was it?
Aggression Continuum.
Yeah, that one, and then the remix album they did after that, Recoded. And I think Recoded was this year.
Recoded was 22.
Oh man, I'm way behind.
The Industrialist was 23, and then they did the full new album, Aggression Continuum, in 21.
Oh, I am way off then. um, so let's go back to 2023, and the newest Overkill album was very good.
They're always good. I love Overkill. They're so much fun, dude.
I wasn't as happy with this one as I was the one before at Wings of War, because that album was just stellar from start to finish. But there were some solid songs on the newest one, and of course I can't remember the name right now.
Have you heard the new Vastum album?
I have not heard that yet. No.
That's a competitor for my album of the year. I've listened to it like 60 times in the last few weeks, but it's just so much fun. It's such a fun album. It's just like really evil death metal, but super thrashy and like some underlying groove. It's just good.
That sounds like it would be right up my alley.
Yeah. If you like I guess like OSDM style stuff, but with a thrashy twist and like a little bit of black metal influence, you'll dig it.
You're talking about the Inward.
What was that?
The Inward to Just the Main. Is that the album?
Yeah, Inward to wasn't it? Inward to Gethsemane.
Gethsemane. Yeah, there we go.
Mm-hmm. Which is I don't know if you know what that's a nod towards. I'm pretty sure it's a nod towards that Incantation album, Onwards to Golgotha, but it might not be. I'm just probably reading more into it than I should.
It could be though. It sounds very similar.
It does, and like those guys, like they've obviously got taken some influence. Everyone's these days has taken some influence from Incantation,
right?
That's like the 2020s death metal sound is Incantation worship.
Yep,
which is not a bad thing.
No, definitely not.
Brendan, we've talked a lot about music. Do you have some non-music questions you want to ask?
Oh, geez. Well. So writing about music is all good and all that stuff, but what's your favorite venue to visit, like to go see live music?
Well, when I'm able to go to shows, which I haven't been able to since before the pandemic, my favorite venue in this area is the Lost Horizon in New York, Syracuse.
Okay.
It's small, it's a little dirty and grimy, but they put on some of the coolest heavy shows. I've seen Napalm Death there, Cataclysm.
Oh, cool.
I want to say we saw Cannibal Corpse there one time. And, going all the way back to the early 90s with hardcore bands like Earth Crisis and Snapcase and Shelter. And, like, that place has just been there forever. And it's like a central New York staple.
Yeah, nice.
And we just had a new venue open up that I haven't gone to yet, but I want to. It's called The Song and Dance, and that's also in Syracuse. And they've been putting on some incredible shows already. On Halloween, they just had Carnifex, which I really wanted to go to because I love their new album, but I was working, of course.
Yeah, I hate when that happens. So, like, some other commitments, and you're just like, shit, man. Like, there was like a real badass show the other day, like Inter Arma and Wake was playing, and I was busy. I'm like, no.
Oh, no. I wanted to go to that show as well on that tour, but I was also busy. That was a great lineup.
I know, man. I was like, fuck, I really want to go to this, but then I'm like, I just can't. I couldn't do it. I'm like, man, stupid things and people and things and
stupid life commitments.
Yeah, adulting. But yeah, I mean, and we've got an amphitheater out here that has some pretty good, bigger shows that come through. They've had Slipknot and Snoop Dogg. And in May, I'm so hoping to be able to go to this. We have Judas Priest coming there.
Nice.
Very nice.
And that's probably the album I'm looking most forward to for 2024.
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, what do you think of the singles? I think they're fantastic.
I liked the first one. What was it called? Anxiety or something, or Panic or something. I can't remember what.
Yeah.
But Trial by Fire makes that song look like garbage.
The second song? Yeah, yep. Second song was really good.
And I kind of like how they're pulling from their 80s sound a little more, because it's not it's not as heavy as Firepower. And I love Firepower, but I like what they're doing now way better.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's good stuff. It's like a return to form.
Yep. Yep, and that was their classic era, the '80s, and
Yes,
to me, that's still the pinnacle of their time
I agree.
until you hit 1990 and then Painkiller, and that's my favorite album by them.
That's their best. I think objectively that's their best album. Like musically speaking, it's just so good.
Well, and they tried something they hadn't tried yet, and it was, I mean, it was almost thrashy. It was
Yeah,
thrashy in a lot of different spots, and the
yeah,
addition of Scott Travis on drums, I mean, that just changed the game for them.
right.
Right.
Do you remember that thing that came out about that album about who played bass?
I don't know if I heard that or not.
Apparently, he only came forward years later, but I want to say it was the bass player from Deep Purple played bass on that album. For some reason, their bass player couldn't. He had some commitment that came up. He couldn't be there for it. So on the recording, it's I think maybe some of the tracks are him, or some aren't, or all the tracks are him. But yeah, Deep Purple's dude played that.
No kidding, I had no idea.
Yeah, he didn't say anything for years because he's not in the credit notes, and then he came forward in an interview or something and said, "Oh, that was actually me."
That's pretty interesting. That's not something I've seen anywhere before. That's cool.
Uh, see, yeah, it was. Here it is. So Don Airy played the bass parts on a Mini Moog synthesizer.
They're not even real bass.
That's what it looks like from what I'm reading.
Wow, that's a shocker to me.
Yeah, here it is. Okay, it's no secret that Deep Purple's keyboardist Don Airy played keyboards on Judas Priest's 1990 Painkiller, but what we didn't know is the bass on the album was actually performed by him on his keyboard as well.
Huh.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I remember reading that at the time. I forgot the keyboard part, but yeah, it was crazy.
Some of those songs are really fast to be playing bass on a keyboard on.
Right. Yeah, it makes it more impressive.
Yeah, it does actually.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet.
Brendan, anything else you want to ask?
Oh, well, while you're out and going to shows and whatnot, and you get hungry, where's some places that you stop, like the little ace places that like no one really knows about?
I wish I could say there was some, but I usually just go to the fast food joint and grab the heaviest, greasiest thing I can and eat that. There are times when we've hit up little restaurants and stuff, like Chili's and stupid shit like that. But if I go to like a show around here, there's tons of pizza places around here that are just fantastic. We actually have one in our town called New York Pizzeria, which every town has one of those. But this one is one of the better ones I've been to. The guy who runs it is straight from Italy, and he makes a real good pie, especially their Sicilian pizzas. I love those things.
Nice.
Beyond that, I eat at home most of the time.
Right on.
There was a Mushroom Head show we went to in Pennellville, and I wish I could remember the name of that place. But they serve some really good burgers, and it's way out in the middle of the nowhere. So even the bands were on stage complaining about how there's no cell service. And that was the show where I actually got turned on to the Browning, which is another band that I absolutely love.
Nice.
But I live in a pretty secluded part of New York. Lowellville isn't the biggest place in the world, and we probably have more cows here than we do people.
Well, yeah, like Syracuse, like a 3-hour plus drive, like 3 hours 40 minutes or so.
From where I'm at, it's an hour and a half.
Damn.
I'm actually closer to Canada than I am Syracuse.
Oh no shit.
Yep.
Yeah, that's way up there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But it's not a bad place to live, you know. It's a little secluded for the kind of music I like to listen to, But
Yeah.
there's some local bands kicking around in the surrounding areas that are good. Like I mentioned earlier, my buddy Jeff is in a band called Less Than Hate, and they're very good. Um, Out of Corning, I think it's Corning, New York, is a band called Bound and Quartered, and they're deathcore more or less,
Yeah.
but they are absolutely fantastic. They just opened for Carnifex in Syracuse, and for Suicide Silence in I believe Rochester, and even Eddie from Suicide Silence said they were the best band on the bill that night.
Damn.
So there's some good stuff floating around. It's just not all super close to me.
Yeah.
I love it when opening acts outperform the headliners. I mean, it's like kind of embarrassing for the headliners, but as an audience member, it's like this was so unexpectedly cool.
Yep. And I had mutual friends at that show, and they were really blown away by Bound and Quartered. And they've only got one, I believe it's only one single out called Karma, and that's
Okay.
on all the services, but it's a very good track.
Okay. I I say this with respect because Candlemass is in my top 5 bands of all time. Absolutely love Candlemass. But I saw them live recently, and there's a band from LA called Early Moods. I don't know if you've heard of them.
I have heard of them.
Yeah, they opened for them, and holy crap, they blew them out of the water. The energy that they brought to the stage was just phenomenal. And then, like, Candlemass, they're all kind of, like, they're older. They can't move around as much. They don't have the energy. It's Candlemass, so I was like, I had to see them live, but I didn't expect them to get, like, obliterated by these young guys from LA.
Yeah.
And it's funny, too. Those young bands are out there grinding and doing all this great stuff, and the music business is just squishing them, and they're not getting the attention or the financial backing that they deserve.
Right. I had a conversation with 2 guests about this a little while back, and like this is in no way shitting on the legends, but there's a lot of these bands that are just taking up the space in the scene. Who, I mean, they maybe shouldn't be releasing stuff anymore on major labels. They should kind of step aside and let some of the up and comers take their place. Because some of these bands, like, they just don't have it anymore, and they're just churning out these albums that are kind of like empty vessels. And for what?
Just to keep making that money is the way I look at it.
Exactly. That's all it is. Exactly. It's not a creative thing at that point. It's just like, well, it's still a band. People are still willing to pay us money because we have the band name. But that's the problem is these guys are still at the top of the chain, so other people can't move up. And then because they can't move up, the people below them can't move up.
And, that goes back to what I was saying about Metallica. I love Metallica, but it's time to let somebody else take that top slot.
Exactly. That's exactly it. And it's the same with, like, it's not just record deals, it's festivals as well, like headlining slots. Same thing.
Yep, I am so sick of seeing Slipknot on every festival and then hearing Corey Taylor's dumb opinions on every media site.
Well, it's mostly like the couple of them, like, metal sucks every time. No matter what happens, here's what Corey Taylor thinks, here's what Puppet from Ghost thinks, here's what Nurgle thinks every time.
And, I love Ghost. I think they're great, but I'm tired of hearing about them. I'm tired of hearing about Slipknot, and I used to love them, but I have no love for them anymore.
Yeah.
And Metallica, Megadeth. Like, I liked the last Megadeth album, but after a few listens, it was really boring.
Yeah, there's younger thrash bands that are putting out better stuff.
Yeah. Like, there's one out of Canada called Hazard, and they're fantastic. And they're hugely inspired by Megadeth.
Yes.
But they're putting out music that's got energy. And Megadeth is just going through the motions.
Right.
I will say, though, that out of that old school era, I am really looking forward to new Anthrax.
That's the one classic legendary thrash band I could not get into. I've tried so many times, and I've seen them live 3 times, and it just hasn't clicked for me.
I like pretty much every era of them.
Okay.
And as much as I love Joey's voice and his singing with that band, I really think their best album is Sound of White Noise with John Bush.
Okay. I haven't heard that one. Maybe I'll try that one, because I think it might be his voice that doesn't work for me.
And that's what it is for a lot of people, is Joey's voice is just, he's not a traditional metal singer. He's got more of that Steve Perry from Journey sound to him.
Yep. I
But
can
when
see
John Bush came in from Armored Saint, it changed the band. They did what a lot of thrash bands did in the 90s. They started going into that direction that would put them into the limelight a little more
that. Hard
as
rock
they were trying to
type
compete with
thing.
new metal.
Yep.
Sound of White Noise is probably the most solid album out of all the bands that tried to do that. It's not a new metal album. It's a change, and it was a really good change.
All right, I'll check it out. That sounds interesting. I know exactly what you're talking about because I remember Megadeth did, was it Risk? That was their
Risk.
90s. And then Metallica, obviously, we know what Metallica did. It was Saint Anger.
Yeah, and even Slayer got in on it with, I believe it was Diabolus and Musica. And
Yes,
I
it
love
was.
that album, but most people hate it.
I don't mind it. It has a few tracks that I really enjoy, but I understand where people are coming from. It's very not Metallica.
They tried the new metal.
Yeah.
Well, that's where everybody thought everything was going, and new metal fizzled out, but it's starting to come back too, I've noticed.
It is. There's a new wave of it, I've noticed as well.
And I don't mind that because I like new metal.
Yeah, I don't get the hate for it because, I mean, there's some stuff I hate. Like, I hate Limp Bizkit. I just cannot stand Limp Bizkit. But I love Korn. I'll defend them any day of the week.
Yep.
And I love Static X.
Oh, man, that's my favorite right there.
Good shit, man. And I genuinely like a lot of Coal Chamber's work as well.
I actually just listened to their first album yesterday and was surprised at how well it holds up even now.
It does. But for me, it's their third album. I like their third album a lot.
Like, that genre had so much groove and...
Right.
Like, it had that groove and intensity, and it was heavy and angry. It pulled in all the stuff that's great about heavy music, but made it accessible.
Right. And the first two Slipknot albums, maybe even three, are really good as well. Like, that was some really genuinely angry, aggressive, heavy music.
Yep, and I mean, people will die on the hill saying that Iowa is the best album to come out of that genre.
Iowa's a good album.
It's a great album. I don't know if it's the best one to come out of that area, though.
Yeah.
I actually prefer their first album to that.
I listened to the first one more than the second.
But I mean, for me, Static X was the best band to come out of that whole scene.
Yeah, I can. For me, it's Korn, but Static X is a close second. It's good stuff. The thing I like about Korn and appreciate about them is that they were never at any point afraid to do whatever they wanted to change their sound. Like, if you listen to their discography from start to finish, no two albums sound exactly the same.
No, they don't, and that is one of the things that makes them stand out from that whole herd of new metal. They didn't.
Right.
They did what they wanted to do when they wanted to do it.
Exactly. They even did a dubstep album, and people are like, they sold out. I'm like, dude, you obviously don't know anything about them because they've always done stuff like this. Like, they've always done what they want.
That wasn't my favorite album by them, but there were some really cool tracks on it.
It was an experiment. It didn't really work, but at least they tried something different.
Yep. And that's what music's about, is growing and expanding. And it's not always about making music for the people. It's about making music for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, I think artists that make music that they want to listen to normally make better music.
Yep. I just read something yesterday on the internet where Suicidal Tendencies is actually making a new album.
Wow.
And their singer, Mike Muir, said that people are probably going to hate it, but he's like, it doesn't matter because I didn't make this album for anybody else but me.
Yeah, I love that. I love those guys. They're so funny, but also so talented.
And so long lasting. I mean, their first album come out in like 83?
Yes.
And for the style of music they do, you wouldn't think they'd still be around.
What was that song with the music video about the Pepsi?
What was the name of that song? Institutionalized.
Yes, I love that song.
Yeah, I do too. That was the first track I ever heard by them on MTV when I was a kid.
Yeah, it's so good. No, Mom, I just want a Pepsi. You're on drugs.
No, Mom, please.
And he looks so young in that video.
Yeah. Brendan, we're coming up on time. Do you have anything else you want to ask?
Well, being a great descriptive writer and all that good stuff, who got you into writing in particular? Was it like some like authors you were reading and like picked up a style, or was there like a journalist or somebody that like how'd that all start?
I think like some of my descriptive stuff comes from reading a lot of Stephen King when I was younger because he's very descriptive.
Yeah.
Sometimes excessively so. I don't like to go as deep into it as he does, but I try to portray the emotions that I'm feeling with music, and
Okay.
that comes from my love of books in general, and I like poetry, and I like the idea that you can take what you're feeling, put it into words, and then make somebody else feel it. So it's not like dry to read. I want people to understand how this track makes me feel or how this riff hits me and all the other stuff that goes along with it. I want them to feel what I'm feeling. And if I can even make them feel a portion of that, I feel that I've done good.
Hell yeah.
Because I mean, it's been the one thing besides my kids that's always been there. And I
Right.
have such a deep love for it that I want people to feel that love for it too.
Definitely. I fully agree.
That's awesome.
That's why we don't write negative reviews on our site, because like we're not about that. We're about sharing good things that people should enjoy, not shitting on people's art.
Yep,
Right.
and that's why I won't do a negative review. If I don't like something, sorry, pass.
Exactly.
Right,
It's like
exactly.
you only have so much time in the day to cover things. I cover like 1% of what I'd like to cover. Why would I waste it on something I don't like?
Yes, exactly.
Right. It's just putting your energy into something negative, even though like it's just man, there's
The,
just
wo-
no need for it.
the world's so negative already. Like you don't need more of that, you know?
Yeah, why
Right.
add to it? And that
Yeah.
that's what the internet wants though, is they want that negative thing so they can latch onto it and talk trash about everybody. I'm not going to feed into that.
No,
That's
me
why
either.
I don't follow a lot of the big sites like Metal Injection. They've got some good writers, but the comment sections are so negative. It's just like I
Yeah.
have to stay away from it because I don't want to be part of it.
Then
Also,
they lead
Not that I
all,
haven't been, of course.
just terrible opinions too, like outright wrong. A lot of the time I've seen. It's like
And
yeah.
just
that's
arguing with other people to argue.
yeah, exactly. And some people, like, no matter what someone says, will just disagree with them. Like, even if it's like the sky is blue, it'll be like, it's green, you stupid fuck. Like, you know, it's like,
Right.
yeah,
Yep, and that's why I avoid politics and religion and all that stuff because it's all you're wrong. I hate you because you're wrong. You suck. Well,
Right.
yeah.
the world's not black and white. There's a lot of gray area, and we
No,
basically live in the gray area.
everyone does, but some people don't think they do.
Yeah,
Right.
well, they've got a lot of waking up and growing up to do, in my opinion.
No, I agree.
Yes, sir.
So we've got a question we like to ask everyone before we wrap up, and it's kind of a fun one, but it might be a little challenging.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. So if you were stranded on a desert island, all you had was a solar-powered Discman and 3 CDs to listen to on repeat until you got rescued, what would you want them to be?
First one would be Black Sabbath, Master of Reality.
Okay, nice.
Second one would be Guar, Scumdogs of the Universe.
Nice.
And the third one would probably be Static X, Start a War.
Interesting choice for the
All
Static
right.
X one. That's it's not an album people normally pick when they talk about Static X.
As much as I love Static X and I think their first album is great, it is not my favorite album by them.
No, that's not mine either. I'm trying to think what mine is called. Let me see. I'm blanking. The one I listen to most and come back to the most is Cannibal.
Yep, that's my second favorite.
Okay, that is a good one. Really good one.
I recently found the physical copy of the CD and DVD of that, and I'd been looking for it forever.
Oh, really? Nice. That's awesome. What do you think of the new vocalist, by the way?
You know, a lot of people hate what they're doing. I think it's great. I've already got the Project Regeneration Volume 2 on pre-order. I can't wait for it to drop. I was super excited when they announced Project Regeneration Volume 1.
Uh-huh.
I interviewed Tony Campos back then, and I think what they're doing is fantastic. Wayne Static was such a unique talent that his music should be played. It should be put out there.
Yeah,
And
I
I'm
agree.
honestly hoping that they do original music of their own.
What's Tony Campos? He's
I'll
from.
probably get crucified for that, but that's okay.
Eh.
A lot of
What's
people don't like it.
Well, Tony Campos has been. He was in Ministry, Prong, and Soulfly at some point, right?
And he is in Fear Factory now.
Right. That's what it is. Yeah.
Yep.
I saw Static X when they did I think it was called like the Back from the Dead tour or something like that. When they came back after Wayne died, and they hadn't announced who the vocalist was. He had the mask on; it was all hidden and stuff. And I can't remember who they were touring with. It was someone in a similar vein, but they were great live. I thought it was awesome. He really carried the energy that I expected from the band.
And he's got, while he doesn't sound exactly like Wayne, he pulls it off really, really well.
Right. No, he does. It's like as close as I could think they'd get. Edsel Dope. That's right. That's who they were with.
Yep. They were with Dope, and the singer is reportedly Edsel Dope.
That was my guess as well, because it looked a lot like him build-wise, because they played one after the other, and then it sounded a lot like him. So I figured it was him.
I do like the way he's handling that, though, because he's not going to come out and admit that it's him, because he doesn't want it to be about him. He wants it to be about Wayne Static, which is exactly what it should be about.
Right.
And I think that is so respectable. And the internet hates it. They hate it as much as they hate the Pantera well, I'm not going to call it a reunion, because it's not the new Pantera tour.
I see both sides of the Pantera tour thing, and I understand the people that say that's not what the rest of the band wanted, and then they stated that before they passed away. So I can see where those people are coming from. But at the same time, I get that there's a whole generation of listeners that have never seen them live, and why wouldn't they play for them?
I consider myself lucky to have seen Pantera back in 97, and they were a force to be reckoned with. And I think if these guys can come out and even do a fraction of that, they're doing a service to the Abbott brothers.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Vinnie Paul would hate it. He would hate it.
Yeah.
But I don't think Dimebag would. He was such a nice, forgiving person that I think he'd be cool with it.
Yeah. Sure.
And he's one of those people that I wish I'd have had a chance to meet while he was still alive. I've read some amazing stories about the guy.
Yeah, I've never heard a negative word about the dude, honestly.
No, and anything negative you hear is because of this culture we have now, where if you do something they look down on, you're automatically this demonic, horrible person, which maybe that's true sometimes, but not all the time.
Right. So just before we wrap up, for anyone who wants to follow your page or any of the sites that you write for, what's the best platforms to do that?
They can find Tom's Reviews on Facebook, which is where I post reviews that I write specifically for that. All the links to any of the other sites I write to go to that, like Cave Dweller Music, The Sleeping Shaman, Doomed and Stoned. And, of course, I post the Doom charts every month, usually. Other than that, they can find my stuff on Cave Dweller Music. Doomed and Stoned, they have their sites on the internet for all that stuff. Sleeping Shaman. I've got accounts on Instagram, X, or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. I started utilizing my TikTok, and I'm going to do that more. And then eventually I'm hoping to have a website. Depends on if I can get somebody who will help me do it, because I'm not good with setting that kind of stuff up.
It's definitely worth having someone do it for you who knows what they're doing. The new Cave Dweller website is infinitely better than the previous one that I built.
But yeah, I mean, you could just internet search Tom's Reviews or any of the sites that I've listed that I write for. And I suggest that everybody who enjoys psychedelic rock of any kind, old, new, or whatever, goes and checks out the Third Eye Psych blog. It may not be up much longer, so go check it out now while it's still there. I'm really hoping Nick keeps it up and keeps it going on his own, but we'll see. I hope it's still there. It's worth checking out. There's a lot of good music on there that are from those genres.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and talking with us. It's a great time chatting.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's been an honor.
Yeah,
Cheers.
always welcome back. And
Excellent. I would love to.
Awesome. Maybe we do like a once a year check-in.
Yeah.
And for anyone listening at home, come back next week. We'll have another guest for you. Thank you.